So this is a Black Rock Desert out in Nevada, just a little north of a little town called Gerlach. This is where they set the land speed records. It was a team from England.
So this is what they ended up shipping over from England. It was called the Thrust SSC. It was basically an airplane without wings, twin turbine, crazy looking thing, very sleek, obviously. And they managed to squeeze out of this thing 763 miles an hour. And that record still stands today. Done it back in October 1997. Aluminum wheels, straight up aluminum wheels. Couldn't use rubber, obviously, because of the load, crazy speeds they were doing. British driver Andy Green was his name. Drove this thing to the world record of 763 miles an hour. The sound barrier, interestingly enough, is about 760 miles an hour, depending on where you are in the atmosphere.
And they used to run it out here when there was more water. The water made it flatter, nicer surface, and less people out here. And every year, for a week, 60 to 80,000 people come out here, and they hold a little festival called the Burning Man Festival. And right now they're just cleaning up over there.
80,000 people conglomerate, forming Nevada's third largest city for 1 week in August. $150 per vehicle to get in, and then you can actually see it on the Garmin as you're driving across what's known as the Playa. About $500 to $2,500 a head is my understanding. Motorcycles are exempt from the entrance fee for a vehicle, and for 6 weeks, about 150 volunteers stay behind and clean up the mass amounts of RVs and abandoned campers and garbage that is left behind. So kudos to them.
Drag them out to the road, and then it becomes a state's problem. People buy a cheap RV and just ditch it out there, and then they tow it to the highway, and they've all been ramsacked through and whatnot. Tires. And there's another camper. Oh, the wheel's blowing right off this thing. Somebody was driving it till there's nothing left. Rims all screwed on it. Storage yard's just full of stuff like this out here. And I don't know what they do with them. Collect them, strip them, burn them. I don't know what they do, but they're out there picking up all the garbage from Burning Man Fest over there. These places are perfect for running the land speed records when it rains. So if you get a little moisture on this, your vehicle's stuck. The mud is like, it layer cakes up on your tread is gone within seconds. Fills up the tread, and then it just starts layer caking. And it'll actually, on a bike like this, it'll jam the wheels shut. It'll stop the wheels from turning. It just layer cakes up. There's been lots of people get out here and they, camp overnight, and the next day it's raining and they try to get out and they can't. Matter of fact, the last year of the Burning Man Festival they had out here turned into a disaster because you had 60,000 people out here, and it rained, and there was just people mired everywhere in their RVs and whatnot. It was okay. Everybody got out fine. I mean, it's not like the Gobi Desert or anything, but two, in the back country here, you can get lost. The Garmin can take you on some pretty wild adventures. It's far from accurate. It's pretty empty space out here. And then two, you get cactuses out here, cacti with the thorns. They'll actually put a hole in your tire. So if you're going down back roads and this sort of thing, be aware of the cactus and the potential of getting stuck. Bring lots of water with you and respect the place. It's a pretty harsh environment. 760 something odd mile an hour. That's what they achieved out here. Wide open for miles. I don't know how many miles it is, but it's quite vast for sure.
Interesting to note, there was a fellow named Craig Breedlove, and he drove a vehicle called the Spirit of America to about 675 miles an hour out in the Black Rock Desert. Unsuccessfully, however, it did crash and miraculously survived. Almost killed, though, ended up in a pond. Now, I don't know. I'm just regurgitating a story here, but I think it was the Bonneville salt flats that he almost drowned in the pond he crashed into rather than the Black Rock Desert. But I could be wrong on that. Nonetheless, very impressive, 675 miles an hour. Steve Fawcett, who used to be the partner of Richard Branson, who owns Virgin Airlines, a billionaire. Steve Fawcett wanted to buy the Spirit of America and set the land speed record himself. And he met his demise in the desert not far from here, Sierra Nevada mountains down the road in California. Crashed his plane into the mountains. Kind of an interesting story in itself.
And his plane crashed out here some years ago, and they looked for it for a long time. I guess when you have money, you import it, so they look for you. And they couldn't find him. But they found like 16 or 17 other crashed aircraft out here in the desert that they hadn't found since the 60s, you know, because they were actually starting to look for this guy. Anyways, they eventually found him. He planted his plane into the Sierra Nevada mountains over there in California. So kind of interesting with the speedometers. A lot of people are under the mistaken impression that the speedometer is somehow accurate, which they're wholly not. They have an error rate about 10 to 15% of up to, depending on the machine. When you're looking at a speedometer on a modern motorcycle, you know, some of them say wacky numbers, 320, 310, whatever it is. And it's certainly not the case. That most motorcycles top out at about 274-ish kilometers an hour, which is just shy of 180 miles an hour. And the reason is because it takes tremendous horsepower to get past that 300 kilometer an hour mark, or the 180 mile an hour mark. Tremendous horsepower. So, you know, most bikes flatline around there unless you start turboing them, or, you know, there's something kind of special for sure. However, it's worth noting that when you hear people say they've done 300 and something on their R6 in Fantasyland, for sure. These, if you put a Garmin up to it, the GPS sat nav, you can see the air rates, even at 130, is about 8 kilometers off. So I don't know, about 4 mile an hour off or something. And it doesn't seem like much. There was a case in the States where there was litigation, of course. They love litigation down here. But with Honda Civic owners who had leased their cars, and the error rate on the speedometers was an issue because the people were paying by the mile, of course. And if the speedometer was optimistic, then that would increase the money they had to pay because they put on miles that they didn't actually put on. So kind of interesting, and the bikes are particularly notorious for it. And there's a bit of marketing in there with it, for sure, and that's one of the reasons you do it. If not the only reason, I'm not sure, but you know, you can clearly see the discrepancy between the Garmin and the speedometer. And that's with most motorcycles. I don't recall ever really seen an accurate speedometer. There's all the guys cleaning up over there. They got a whole camp down the road, and they say there's about 150 people, and they come out and clean up. There's cars zigzagging around. And last night, it was kind of interesting. There's cars zigzagging around, and I was wondering if I might get run over out here. Like some drunk person not paying attention. What are the odds? Not too sure, but you never know, I guess.